What are some of the key ingredients or secret ingredients of video marketing campaigns?
Getting a really deep understanding of that person that you're trying to help. And the best way I've found to do this is to start with one person, one actual person. Start with one person who you think could be representative of your target audience and solve a problem for them. And build your whole campaign around that one person.
Welcome to Playing with Perspective, the suspended animation podcast, where we hear real stories from real people and we tackle all sorts of fun topics in the areas of business, marketing, entrepreneurship, mindset, the arts, and, well, life itself. It's amazing what you will pick up. Thanks for joining us. Welcome, everyone. Darren Saul here, your host of Playing with Perspective, the suspended animation podcast. Hope you're doing very, very well, enjoying the week, getting ready for the weekend. But I have a fantastic guest for our podcast today. It's episode 241, and I have the great Gideon Shalwick in the house. How you doing, Gideon?
I'm good, thank you, Darren. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. I've known of Gideon, and I've been using his products for a long time, and he's fantastic. So really great to have him on the show. And we're going to be chatting all about the future of video marketing. That's Gideon's space. He's an expert when it comes to that. Before we jump in, I'll just let everybody know I've launched a brand new 7-day podcast launch challenge. So it's free. If anybody's interested in learning how to podcast or optimizing their podcast, feel free to jump on. I'll put the links in the show notes, and there'll be 7 days of incredible free content to help you grow and optimize your podcast journey. But off to the show. So I'm going to introduce Gideon so everybody knows a bit more about him. Gideon is the visionary founder of Vubli.ai, a revolutionary platform that transforms video content distribution by allowing creators to post across multiple platforms with just one click. Vubli not only automates titles, descriptions, tags in your unique voice, but also supercharges your video publishing process. Gideon's entrepreneurial journey includes launching Splasheo, which is a fantastic product that I use, a cutting-edge video production agency specializing in short-form content. His passion for empowering creators and brands has fueled countless success stories, making video creation faster, easier, and more impactful than ever before. So, mate, welcome, and I'm looking forward to talking all about video.
Yeah, I'm excited. The future of video is always a very interesting topic. You mentioned that I'm an expert in the field. I'm not sure if I am because the future is not quite here yet. So,
True. You're pretty good at where you're at right now.
Yeah, I think it's been interesting to be in the industry for so long to see all the different trends. And I think I've been able to spot trends before they arrive, sometimes to my advantage and sometimes not to my advantage. So it's been a really, really interesting journey. I've been at it for about 18 years now. Yeah.
Wow.
I've seen a lot.
That's actually a really interesting point. Mate, tell us a bit more about what do you think your power is or your skill to spot things before they actually become huge?
I've often asked myself that same question. Someone like Dan Sullivan talks about your unique ability, and it's often the thing that you don't value yourself because it comes so easy to yourself, and other people notice this about you. This is actually something that I noticed about myself over time because it's not often something that someone else would pick up on because it happens over time. Yeah. But very often I've been able to just get a sense for a need in the market and then jump on it and either sometimes ride a bit of the wave, but more often than not, my kryptonite is thinking that the wave is already gone and I'm too late. Yeah. And then, 10 years later, I realized that, hey, I was actually one of the fifth guys and not realizing that. So it's actually been both a strength and a weakness to be able to do that and to realize that, hey, because I'm so ahead and not realizing the problem is that I don't realize that I'm ahead. That's the issue. I can sometimes fall into the trap of being too early. And I think that can be a big problem if you have an innovative sort of a mindset. Yeah. But to come closer to your question for how I might have that superpower, I think I've always just been curious about how things work and also just getting frustrated with things that don't work and wanting to fix it. That's ever since a very small age. I would open up little remote control cars, and partly because I was intrigued with how it worked, but also how could I improve it? Like I remember getting a radio, little, I don't know if that's still, if people still buy radios for their kids now. It's just iPhones and iPads these days. But my dad or someone bought me a radio. It was like a proper AM, FM radio.
Yeah.
And I remember, I don't think I've told this story to anyone before, actually, by the way, not on podcasts, but I remember pulling this thing apart, and yeah, it was cool, interesting. But then I improved it. Like I created it didn't have a proper on-off switch. So then I figured out where the power was, and I figured out a better way of doing it. Yeah. And thinking back, I think that's probably been a bit more of the superpower that I have, is just looking at the world and noticing when things are wrong, and then having a real keen desire to fix it. And so I've just been applying that in the video space for the last 18 odd years.
Yeah, that's an incredible journey.
Yeah, and just been creating solutions all along. And all of it's been for that desire where I'd look at an inefficiency and go, that's frustrating. Oftentimes because it's frustrating to myself, because I'd be in the situation myself. And then asking the question, there's got to be a better way. Surely there's got to be a better way. And often finding that no one else has done it. And I go, if no one else has done it, then I'll go ahead and do it. And I think maybe that's maybe why I've been early to things, not realizing it, because I'd be in an industry thinking that everybody knows the same things that I do. And then, of course, that's not always the case.
Yeah, love it. Absolutely brilliant. I'd love to take a little step back and maybe tell me and tell the audience a bit more about your background, because I know you've always been in video, but what were you doing exactly? And then what led you into Splasheo and then now into Vubli?
Yeah, okay. So to go right back, I was born in South Africa. I left with my mum and dad when I was 16. This is way back in 1994, and went to New Zealand, went to school there for 2 years. I had a year off after school. I did athletics. I really loved athletics. I did the hurdles, and I wanted to go to the Olympics. So I took the year off school to go and focus on that and to qualify for the World Championships, the World Junior Championships, which is like the lead into Olympics later on. It was a really tough year. I didn't end up qualifying, and it was very disappointing, which made me pivot into something different, which was to go into study engineering. And I actually didn't know what the hell I was going to do. And this might be relevant to your recruitment business, but I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I knew that I wanted to do something creative, because I always loved the creative stuff. And I knew that I was breaking into FM, AM radios earlier in my youth. So I thought, hey, let me do engineering. But I literally didn't know which one. So I narrowed it down to between mechanical and electronic engineering. And I ended up flipping a coin to decide which one I would pursue. And it ended up going towards electronic engineering, which I'm not sure if it was a good thing for me in the end, because it was an incredibly challenging course. Yeah. For 4 years, you just didn't see me. I was just like studying all the time. And, I was not the smartest tool in the shed. I was probably towards the lower quartile in the class. So in terms of my IQ, there's such smart people in that class. And so I had to work really hard just to pass, and to ended up getting some good grades too, but some was like really challenging. And then after that, I thought, hey, this really sucks. I don't want to be an engineer. I want to actually work with people. So I then did another degree, Master of Engineering Management, where it was more about the systems and people side of engineering, and I enjoyed that a lot more. And then I went into project management, and then into business development later for technology companies. And then after working for 5 years, I said, this also sucks. I don't want to work for someone else. Let me go and do my own thing. So me and my wife at that time, she's still my wife, but at that time, I just told her, I said, look, let's try something else. We were married for 2 years at that point. And I said, let's both quit our jobs and immigrate to Australia and just start something new. I have no idea what, but let's try. So the deal was that I'd start applying for jobs. So that would be our ticket into Australia. And then once I get a job, we'll go. So I struggled for a month, and nobody wanted me to go and work for them. And at that point, I was okay, this is not working. So I said to my wife, why don't you apply for some stuff as well? And she did. And within 3 days, not only did she get, it was a week or something. Within a week, she got 3 job offers.
Oh my God.
And she flew over all 3 interviews, and she basically could take any one of them. Within a week, she got a really good job, and as an architectural draftsperson. So that was our ticket into Australia. And then I came along for the ride, and I decided I'm not going to look actually for a job, not actively. I'm going to see if I can start a business. So while Tinika, my wife, was working, I was mucking around trying to figure out what business thing should I do here. And I tried a bunch of different things, and eventually settled on creating an information product. I wrote a little book and then sold it online. And I had a mentor at the beginning that helped me with that.
Right.
And so that went pretty well, but it wasn't a sustainable business. And then I realized that video was a big thing. I started creating videos for other people to just help pay the bills. Hey, this is a cool thing. And then I did a video project with someone else where I did the training on video and he did the marketing for it. We teamed together. That became really successful. It's one of the first video training courses on how to set up a blog. This is way back in 2007, right about there, 2007, 2008. Yep. And then I moved and I thought, wow, this video thing is really cool. Let's create a case study. And then I want to teach the world about it. So I teamed up with a magician and he did the magic. I did the video marketing and we built a YouTube channel. Got it up to, I forget the number, so I don't want to say something wrong now. I think in the end it got up to maybe 250,000 subscribers. Yep. I was only there for the first year. After the first year, I had enough of a case study to take it further and to teach people what I learned. And I let my partner, he ran the business. I just gave everything to him, basically said, hey, here you go. I got what I needed from it. Yeah. And so that was really cool. And that allowed me then to go out on my own and start teaching businesses how to use YouTube in particular to grow an audience online and drive that attention and views back into their business.
So you're one of the first YouTube coaches and specialists, probably.
Yeah, when I did it, there were not many around. Again, it was one of those things where I was really early and I didn't realize it. So this was around about 2010, I peaked on my career of teaching YouTube. And at that point, I thought, man, this business is taking really long to catch on. And I think the wave is gone and I'm keen to do something else now anyway. So I moved on. And little did I know that was just like the tiny beginning of something much, much bigger that grew after that. But at that point, I already pivoted into creating brands because at that point my business was really dependent on me and my brain, and because I was creating information products or content marketing, video courses, books, anything digital information that you could download, I was creating in the video marketing space. And so I wanted to, our first child was born in 2010. And so at that point I thought, hey, I need to create something that's more independent of me and my brain. And what if something happens to me, then what's my family going to do? Yeah. So I started creating brands and Splasheo was actually my first go at it, the first version of Splasheo that you probably never saw. I think it was way before you joined. So I set that up, got that running. I wanted to automate the whole thing and really struggled because I needed to get some developers, and then finally found some developers, but then we decided to create a new business from that. And then we created some video advertising software. Did that for about 4 years and then came back, I exited that and I came back into Splasheo and pivoted that into what you are using at the moment. And about a year ago, we wanted to create something that was 100% software and targeting a very, very specific pain point for video creators, which is the publishing and promotion side of videos. Because you know what it's like creating the videos, it's already a pain point. Once you've got it, there's the whole distribution part of it that is very time consuming and very painful. Yeah.
Very, yeah. Just for everybody out there, I use Splasheo to create all my little trailer videos and it's absolutely brilliant. I think it's a groundbreaking product. So definitely check that out. But yeah, I agree. There's so much work that goes into the post-production of all content, particularly video content, that a lot of people take for granted. They don't realize how much work goes into it. And then after that, you've still got to go and do the promotion and the marketing and the distribution. So it's a big job. So wherever we can use software or AI or tools to help us, all the better.
Absolutely.
But why are you still so passionate about video nowadays? Is this something that you've always been passionate about?
Yeah, when I was 5 years old, I've often thought about why am I still doing video stuff? What's the attraction? So there's this memory of when I was about 5, I was watching a news show and I was watching the news presenter and I thought, wouldn't that be a cool job? And I don't know why I thought that. Right. Maybe there was a sense of being seen, being listened to, a sense of being knowledgeable and smart because the TV presenter is seen as all those things, a respected person who's knowledgeable and acknowledged in society, whatever. Maybe that's what I was yearning for when I was 5. I've thought about this a lot, obviously. And I think maybe that has been like the driving force, that need for significance. And I think with video, what's so cool about that is that it allows you to fulfill those basic desires that I had. And it took me a while to realize and to be honest enough with myself that is what I was searching for all along. and video became the vehicle for helping me get that. And I only realized this like years and years into my video career, years and years. So probably, I don't know when it hit me, but it was something like 4 or 5 years ago, maybe. So it's relatively recent in my career.
Yeah,
and it was quite a revelation to realize that, hey, hang on, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And this is subconsciously, right? So it's not, there's a difference between you saying, here's my mission in life, and this is what I want to do with my life, and I want to make a difference. So that's like on a conscious level. Yeah. But then there's something that's deep, deep down on a subconscious level that you don't know until it becomes conscious that it's driving you.
Yeah.
And that was really important for me as a person to realize that, hey, this thing is driving me. And then asking, when it became visible, I could ask the question, hey, is this a healthy driver? Is this actually something that I can change? Is it something that I can control? Yeah. Do I really need to have that fulfilled? Are there other ways of getting it fulfilled? Anyway, this is getting into probably quite a philosophical discussion.
And I'm very similar. Like, I also recognize that everybody likes a bit of that dopamine hit. Everybody likes a little bit of that recognition and that status and that appreciation. And I'm the same. Like, I love podcasting and putting out videos and sharing content for a little bit of that reason. There's so many other things that drive me, but I think that's part of it as well. But as you said, there's nothing wrong with it if it's not hurting anybody and it's actually helping you to achieve what you want to achieve. That's fantastic. So use it in the right way. So Gideon, I really want to talk a little bit more about video. And so obviously you're in the video space, you're at the cutting edge of video marketing, exactly how the world is working. You've done a lot of research. I want to just get your opinion on these days, because it's changing rapidly right now, for people that are wanting to get into using video to market their business or market a personal endeavor or agenda or product or whatever. What are some of the key ingredients or secret ingredients of video marketing campaigns?
There's some sage advice that's, I think, probably the same from anybody who's done business for a while. And that is always the first step comes down to who it is you are trying to serve. Like getting a really deep understanding of that person that you're trying to help. And the best way I've found to do this is to start with one person, one actual person, not an avatar, not a representation or an ICP or whatever you want to call it. Start with one person who you think could be representative of your target audience and solve a problem for them. And build your whole campaign around that one person. Because if you know you can solve it and convince that one person to take action on the solution that you've got to offer, then it's very likely going to be many others as well like that can that person can represent for your target audience. So I think that's probably the most important thing. There's the rule of threes that I always apply to anything. Whenever I get to a challenge, or even when I get to something where I think I understand it, but I'm not getting results, and then I've got to go back to the drawing board, I always apply this rule of threes. I'm not sure if it's an actual principle or something, or it might be called something else, but going back to first principles maybe, or something like that. But I ask the question, okay, what is the goal that I want to achieve? What is that outcome? And it's a very specific outcome. And then I ask the question, what are the three, if I could only create 3 categories that everything else can fall into to achieve that one thing, what would they be?
Gotcha.
And then it's like a Venn diagram where they overlap is where it's a sweet spot to be able to achieve that thing. So when it comes to putting together successful campaigns, I think that's a really useful way to look at it as well, because you can say, what is the purpose of these campaigns? And then you can say, ultimately, it is probably to get someone to pull out their credit card and make a transaction with you. So if that is the ultimate end goal to create a transaction, then you can ask the question, okay, to create the transaction and to create lots of them, but let's just start with one transaction. What does it require? And then you can say, okay, there are 3 things, using the 3-pronged approach. So the first thing is really I call them IMPs. So individual making the purchase. So that's your target audience, right? But it's more specific. It's saying, who is the person who is going to pull the trigger? Who's the person that's going to grab the credit card, either their own or the company's credit card, and who's going to type in the numbers and make the actual purchase? Who are they? Because who are they, or who is telling them to do that? So that's the person that you're looking at to create the transaction. Because without the person, you're not going to get the transaction.
Yeah.
The next thing you want is the offer. And so then you've got two really good ingredients. You've got the person who's going to make the transaction, and you're going to make an offer to them. Now, the offer, each one of these things you can break down into three more things, right? So with the offer, it's basically comes down to what is the problem that you're identifying, what is your solution, and what is your messaging to explain that. Your messaging comes down to the right solution at the right time, at the right price. That's what it comes down to. So that's your offer. And then the third ingredient, which a lot of people miss out on because it's more hidden. Those first two are really obvious, like getting the right person, offering them the right thing at the right time, at the right price. But then the third one, if you don't have it, the transaction also doesn't take place. In fact, for all three of them, if any one of them is missing, there's no transaction. Okay, let me give you an example. And because I want to see, I haven't tested this on anybody. So I want to see if this works. So I put an ad, let me create a YouTube ad. I'll create a YouTube ad. And in the YouTube ad, I say something like, hey, guess what? I would like to give you $10,000. All you've got to do is click on the link below and enter your bank details, and then I'll send it to your account. Now, would you do that just based on that information?
No. So trust, maybe you're looking for trust. Is that
correct? Yeah. So exactly. So compare that to someone extremely reputable that you might trust. Maybe it's your grandfather who you love, and maybe they're overseas and they send you an ad. Maybe it's not an ad, but it's a little video saying, hey, Darren, I want to send you $10,000. All you got to do is send me your bank details and I'll make it happen for you.
Gotcha.
Like immediately you've got all three of those things in place. You've got the person, in which case is you, the individual making the purchase or making the transaction. The offer is perfect. You definitely want it. It's the right solution at the right time, at the right price, and then trust, which is the final thing that seals the deal. So you got to have all three of those things in place. And so when you create your campaigns, you've got to bring those things into play. You've got to ask that question: am I actually targeting the right people and at the right level? Are you going bottom up or top down with your targeting? So, for example, are you going for the actual person making the purchase, or are you going to the CEO who decides for the whole company to make the purchase? Because your marketing effort is going to be different depending on which level you go at and what kind of person it is. And just figuring out as much as you can about that person who's going to be making the purchase, or whoever is influencing them to make the purchase.
I love it. And I love the way that we've got very strategic before we've got tactical.
Absolutely, yeah.
Really important
strategy
to
before
think
tactics. Absolutely, always.
What's happening behind the scenes? Who do we target? Why? How? Before we start thinking about, how do we create the video, or what do we have ourselves in the video? Do we have captions? Do we not have captions? So it's good to take a step back and really come up with the strategy and the underlying psychology of what you're doing, and then go into the tactics.
Correct. Yeah. Because you can create the best ever looking video, but if it's towards the wrong person and it's creating something that they don't want, and there's no trust elements built in, then it's just not going to work. So, yeah.
That's right. Love it. Yeah. So true. Love it. Very cool. And so obviously, if we get tactical now, just generally from today's market point of view, and obviously things are changing really quickly and have changed, what would you say right now are some of the factors from a tactical point of view for people to consider when making videos?
Yeah, great question. So the strategy informs the tactics. So depending on the strategy that you're going after, it will change the kind of tactics you might use. So for example, say you're going after big shot CEOs and companies, and you're going to create a different kind of video promotion strategy towards them compared to, say,
the person that's actually the videographer or the person creating the content, the marketing department.
Correct, yeah. Or someone off the street who's looking for a job or a business opportunity or whatever.
Or a solopreneur maybe that's a one-stop shop.
Exactly. So you're probably going to think differently about what kind of video style and video content, video length would be appropriate to them. So for example, you might, if it's a CEO, you might be better off just sending a Loom video that you record, and it's a one-on-one kind of a video as opposed to a one-to-many kind of video.
Right.
And the purpose of that one video is to convince one person to take a certain action. So the strategy informs the tactics. So that's one of the first things.
Love it.
So it's a kind of video. So thinking about who you're targeting, what kind of video would be appropriate for that person. It also, I think in terms of tactics, also thinking about little things like production value. And again, the strategy will inform the tactics. So when it comes to production value, what kind of emotion do you want people to feel? And this comes into the trust thing as well. It's really interesting. Sometimes a video that is, depending on the target audience, but if your video is, say, too polished for your target audience, they might be turned off by it.
Yeah.
And they might think this is just too polished for me and it's not real and it's fake. I don't trust it.
Too sleazy.
It's too sleazy or whatever else. I saw someone on Twitter, X, the other day. They had this really basic video. It was just this, it was like a short screen capture of their software.
Yeah.
And where it was like really basic, but it was and totally unprofessional. It was like there's no music or anything fancy. It was like a 15-second video.
Yeah.
And it was just showing something that he was working on.
Right.
And it just hit a chord. Within a day, this video had 250,000 views on X. And it's not like he had a big following either. And I was looking at that going, gosh, sometimes I spend so much time worrying about the script and getting a special setting for my camera and stuff like that. And it doesn't always have to be like that. So it really depends on what you're trying to achieve. So don't get caught up on thinking, hey, it's got to be all professional. It can go completely the other way as well, depending on what you're trying to achieve. But obviously there are definitely cases where you can build a lot of trust with a good setting as well. And one of the key ideas there, and you've probably taught this to your audience multiple times as well, is the most important thing about video is your audio quality. Yeah. It's not actually the video quality. So the better you can get your audio, the better the impression is going to be for your video. And this is really easy to prove. Yeah. You can probably think back to a phone conversation you've had, or maybe you can even think back to a Zoom call you've had with someone and the audio was just terrible. But the video quality might have been great. Now, your experience is almost 100% influenced by that audio perspective. So it's just so interesting how we're more put off by auditory flaws than visual flaws in our experience. It's just how I think our ears seem to be more sensitive to flaws in that sense than the visual stuff.
Yeah, so true.
You can even think about it, going to watch a movie. It could be the best production ever, but if the sound's crackling and it's really annoying, you're going to walk out after 10 minutes. You're not going to enjoy it. Yeah. Whereas you can have more of a fuzzy sort of a picture, but really good sound, and you're probably going to still enjoy the movie. So it's like a bit of a generalization. Yeah, but getting really good with your audio, I think even if you're creating an unprofessional kind of a video, I think it pays to have good audio. Still, think about that. So even if you want to create a video that doesn't seem as professional, if you can get something as simple as a lapel mic or these DJI cameras, they come with their own little mic that you can use to get better sound. Little things like that to make sure your sound is really good. When it comes to the video,
microphones right now, some of these microphones you can get USB mics and plug straight into your computer that are very low cost, and the sound is fantastic.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's recording straight to your computer, like we're doing right now, for example. There's really no excuse to have bad sound these days. It's like the money you spend on a good microphone will far outweigh the cost of not having one, not having good sound. You'll lose people with bad sound. That's what it comes down to. So make the sound really good. Then there are some basic things you can do with your production, just making sure it's well lit. Having a well-lit shot can make a huge difference to the quality of the video, depending also on your camera. So with iPhones these days, they're getting pretty good, but they're still not as good as DSLR cameras, for example, for video quality. But again, sometimes with really good lighting, you can get an effect that is almost on par with DSLR sort of cameras. Yeah. The benefit with DSLR cameras is they've got a much bigger sensor, and so it can handle low light conditions much better, but they're complicated to set up. So if you've got the skill and patience to do that, obviously invest in something like that. Otherwise, just use whatever you've got and use good lighting to make up for the lens that might not be as good. Yeah. And really, there's not much more else in terms of production that you can do to create a good effect. Some other tactics then to create a good overall effect is your content. And again, when you know who you're targeting and what it is that they want, then creating a script that can target that really well can make a big difference as well. And people are busy, so you want to get to the point real quick. And there's many different formulas that you can use for creating certain content. There's persuasive sort of formulas like AIDCA, for example, attention, interest, desire, conviction, action. That's one of the many formulas. There's, problem, agitate, solution. That's another formula that you could use for the more persuasive stuff. There's the spin one. I forget what they all stand for. Situation, problem.
Idea, maybe, or idea.
Yeah, something like that. Idea, and then now, or something like that. That's also another good persuasive structure. Then there are story structures as well. The man in a hole story, like man starts here, challenge, he falls into the hole and he climbs his way back out. That's a sort of a story. There's like a boy meet girls kind of story. There's the hero's journey story that follows an arc, which is a very popular in Hollywood kind of storytelling. And what's great about, using something like that is that story is probably the best way of embedding your messages to get your message across easier. People are much more likely to listen to you if you've got a story to tell, and that your message is embedded inside the story. And that's how all big storytellers do it. They create this story, and there's a message within the story that gets absorbed as part of the story.
Nothing grabs your emotion and touches the emotional buttons like a story.
Yeah, but a very specific kind of story. Not all stories are good stories. There are some stories that are boring.
That's a good
Part of the reason why they might be boring is simply because the structure of your story is out of place. And all you got to do is change the structure. So, for example, one little trick you can do is, if you've got a story to tell, ask yourself, where is the highlight? Where's the most critical, the biggest inflection point, the biggest point of crises or whatever it is? And instead of leaving it till later, bring it right to the front.
Yeah.
And open up a loop and say, so you can start with the big traumatic thing that happened and say, guess what? Or, I don't know, I'm over dramatizing here, but I just broke my leg.
Yeah.
But before I tell you, let me give you the backstory for how I got there.
Yeah, I like that.
So you can, there's a lot of things you can do like that, where you can turn a fairly boring story of breaking a leg into something that's people will move to the edge of their seat to want to listen to. Yeah.
I love it. So interesting.
Yeah. So if you learn the structure of story, I think it can make a huge difference. Yep. Christopher Vogler has done a really good job with The Writer's Journey. The book is called The Writer's Journey, Christopher Vogler. So that became like the Bible for movie creators. And of course, that was built on Joseph Campbell's work. So he was like the guy that he did all the groundwork. And I think he based a lot of his ideas from Carl Jung as well. So he found all these symbols that were common in different cultures and figured out, hey, there's a common story that keeps on getting told. And it's a common structure. Like if you look at all the big stories, they all seem to have the same elements and quite often in the same order as well. And so he identified that and formalized that.
Yeah, there's a framework. There's a formula.
A framework, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in Christopher Vogler, he just took that and simplified that and made it a bit more digestible. Yeah.
Awesome. No, I love it. Now, in terms of the future of video, where do you see AI fitting into this now?
Great question. And longer term, I really have no idea. And I'm hoping for the best. That's my honest answer. Shorter term, I think where things are going, at least in the immediate future, is a space where people have a knee-jerk reaction against it. We've already been seeing that, where people are saying, hey, I don't want anything AI. If it's AI, I don't want to use it. It's too fake, whatever. Yep. However, I think we're definitely seeing signs where AI is getting used in such a way where you can't tell the difference anymore. Absolutely. Now,
for example, there are AI influencers that are doing so well, and they're not people; they're purely AI-driven influencers.
That's right, and it's a little bit scary in a way. So my take on it is that I like humans. And even though I have an AI company, what we do with AI is complementary to humans.
Yes.
So with Vubli, for example, we don't use AI to create the original content. We use the original content created by humans to then supplement everything else. So the AI is a supporting function as opposed to a creative function. Yeah. So that's a big difference for what we're doing, at least with it. It's not we're not using it for the creative part. We do create things out of it, but it's based on the
source content is non-AI driven. It's
exactly, yes. So I would like to think that as humans, we would still want to have other humans to create content and to want to consume their content. But there is a chance, of course, that AI just gets so good that all human creations become really boring and laborious for people to create, because they might go, hang on, if I have a choice between creating a unique human experience compared to, but it might be not as exciting because I might not be as skilled, compared to using AI, this is now in the future, that is 10 times better. Why would I bother doing this laborious thing as a human if I can get it done with AI 10 times better? So we might get to that stage where people consider that in their business as well, and then say, I'm just going to use the AI option. And so, and that's where my sort of thinking breaks down in terms of, I don't know where we'll end up in the next 3 to 5, 10 years. Like it's hard for me to, given how much it's progressed in the last 1 or 2 years, it's hard for me to even imagine where things could be in 10 years time. But I would like to hope and think that we can, at least on the creative side, human beings can still be a part of that. So,
yeah. I hope so too.
But at least for now, the future now, because my present might be someone else's future. I think that's something that's worth thinking about as well. When you're talking to someone who's really, really deep in their field, they're often at the front end of product adoption life cycle. So you've got the early adopters, innovators, early majority, late majority, then laggards, right? So when you're talking to someone who's right at the front, at the cutting or bleeding edge,
yep.
When you think about it in terms of time, those people in the early majority or late majority, it's going to take them a while before they get to the realizations of the guy or girl in the front. Yep. So what's present for that person might be the future for the people coming later. If I may be so forward to think that I might be more towards the front of the curve and there's someone else who's listening who might not be so deeply into it, because I spend all my time in this space.
That's right.
So much so that it could be embarrassing. And at parties, people ask me, what do you do? And I can only talk about this stuff because I'm so consumed with it. But it's a pro and a con. But certainly my present time at the moment is that AI is an incredible complementary tool to help you just get leverage and speed things up tremendously. Writing scripts, for example, for your videos, it's gotten a lot better now. You can, what I found is what makes it really useful, or what gives you a much better result, is this idea of GIGO or GIGO, G-I-G-O, garbage in, garbage out. That's the idea, the principle with computing, right? So the idea is that whatever you put in is what you get out. So the better your inputs are, the better your outputs are. So when it comes to AI, there's a couple of ways of doing it. One, like you can go to ChatGPT now and say, hey, I've got this idea for a video. Here are some thoughts I'm thinking about it. Can you please write a script about it? And then ChatGPT can go ahead and try and figure out what might be a good script. That's one way. You'll get an okay result. Next level result is where you actually feed stuff into it, where you, so to speak, almost train the AI a little bit, or give it a bigger context window for answering the question. So you might, for example, say you might be able to get a transcript of a video within your industry.
That's right.
And maybe it's a video that was quite popular. And you could say, hey, here's a popular video, a transcript of a popular video. And can you please use this to come up with a video script that is related to the topic there, that would appeal to a large group of people for XYZ purpose. And because of that better input that you have and a larger context window that you supply to your prompt, that will allow the AI to get more context and say, okay, now I can do a better job. Now I know more specifically what you're after, and I can create a much more specific and better result for you. So I think in the present time, for me at least, it's a very AI, like ChatGPT and many other wrapping tools like that are incredible for that. I haven't used much visual or video AI myself. I played around a little bit with creating clones and stuff like that of myself, and I was cool, but it didn't sit well with me. It wasn't quite there yet. I haven't checked it recently. Yeah. It's probably about 6 months ago that I checked it last.
I'm about the same. It wasn't quite there yet, but
no, it wasn't quite there.
Now, who knows?
Yeah, it was, and I think until you can't tell the difference, it'll always be a little bit off-putting for people. There's examples popping around now where people who are very public, you're able to train the video AIs on those visual images of those people really, really well. So you can get extremely accurate results of them. So both their image plus their voice, put that together in an environment, and you can create something that looks very convincing. So deep fakes, for example, it's just becoming, a lot of them are becoming scarily real. And yeah, can you apply that to your own marketing? That's the next question. You probably can, and it'll probably get better and better. Yeah. But I would like to think that, again, it comes back to trust. And trust is one of those things that it's extremely hard to get, and and it's extremely powerful. But once you lose it, you just can't get it back. It's almost impossible to get back again.
Okay.
So if you're using AI in a way to deceive in a way, or you might not even intend that, but if people think that you try to deceive them with AI, then you lose trust, right? And then boom, that kills the whole transaction triad. So I think it's something just to be mindful of, that you still got to have that authenticity and that connection, because it's, at least for now, we're still people doing business with people. And I don't know what it will be in 3, 5, 10 years.
Pretty crazy to think about what will come. But the technology is moving at such a rapid rate. But I like the core of what you're saying is use it to make things more effective and efficient and help you. It's not going to replace the human just yet.
Yeah. I think it's certainly an incredible leverage tool. I'm looking at our programmers as well, and they're also using AI to help them with the coding, right? Absolutely. But here's the thing. They can use AI, Cursor, and even OpenAI also just released, I think it's called Canvas or something. I haven't quite looked at it, but I think it's a competitor to Cursor, where you can tell it to code stuff for you, right? So you can tell it in English and then it'll code things for you. And I played around with it way back with ChatGPT, and I was quite impressed. I created a little breathing timer, which would have a visual thing that would expand when I breathe in and collapse when I breathe out. And I could set the timing of it. And so it was cool. And it was just all in HTML. And I was like, wow, I can just tell it in English and it creates an HTML. That was like a year ago. Yeah. But here's the thing. For you to be able to drive it really well, the better your knowledge is of the underlying industry, the better you can prompt it. And I certainly saw this with my daughter. She's very artistic. And so when she would write a prompt to create an image, it'd be way different to me, because I know very little about drawing and design and stuff like that. Whereas she could use the right words to instruct, in the prompt what she wanted, and she'd be able to get a much better result because of that. And it's the same for our coders. Because they are coders, they know the language, they know the drill, they know what to ask, they know the structure of code and etc. They could do a much better job at asking AI than I could. And so in the video marketing industry, if you understand, I think that the key there is understanding psychology, understanding why people buy, understanding why people do things. And part of that is understanding why you do things as well. What's your drivers? If you can understand your own drivers, I think you can understand other people's drivers better as well. So the better you understand yourself, know thyself, better you understand yourself, the better you can understand others. And from that, you can then use that to instruct AI much, much better. So if you really understand why people buy, you can then fine tune your instructions when you're writing a script, for example, for a sales video.
Yeah,
so that's not going to go away.
It all comes down to that same principle or very similar to principles of what you put in is quality of what you put in is what you get out, but also in terms of how you prompt, how you use AI, how you train AI to do what you want it to do. So the more information you can give it to give it context, the better results you're going to have with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Can't agree more with that.
Gideon, that's amazing. We can really dive into the underlying psychology and intricacies of AI forever, and I'm sure we will. But I'd love to learn a bit more about Vubli and tell everybody a bit more about what you've just created.
Yeah, so Vubli is, I guess, it's my third software project company that I'm involved in. And it was really born out of a frustration with the pain of publishing and promoting your videos. So there's multiple pain points when it comes to video marketing. There's the pain of just coming up with an idea for what you should create content about. There's the pain of actually being in front of the camera or deciding who is going to be in the camera. Should it be you or should it be someone else? Yep. Or should you just outsource it to whatever third party? Yep. There's a pain point there. And then there's a pain point of your equipment, right? Or what camera should you use? What lighting should you use? All these sort of things. There's definitely a pain point. There's the editing pain point, which is really time consuming and painful, right? And then you get to, you've gone through all that stuff, all that pain, and you've got a great video. And now you want to get it out to the world. So one way is to use that video as an ad. You can run ads to it, just through the different platforms. That's challenging in and of itself because you got to create a really, really good message to resonate if you're going to pay money for it.
That's right.
But what if you want to use video content for growing an audience? You got to publish that stuff and you got to get eyeballs on it. And that is almost like the final pain point to solve. And this is where a lot of people fall over. So a lot of people have enough guts and persistence to get to that point for getting the video created. But then it comes to publishing it. It's one thing publishing one video. It's another thing publishing a video every day of the year and not burning out.
Yeah.
And so this is where Vubli came in, because I wanted to create something, for myself, that I could use to publish video content daily without getting burnt out. And the drill, you create a video, upload it to YouTube, and you go, oh, hang on, now I've got to write a title. Now I've got to write a description and some tags. Now I've got to create a thumbnail. Okay, gosh, it's all done. Hit publish. Whew, done. No, hang on, I'm not done. I want to now also have this on Facebook. Okay, now I've got to do it again. Title, description, gosh.
And then I'm going to make a short. Then I'm going to make a reel.
And I've got to exactly. And then after a while, you just go, oh, screw it. I'm just going to do it for one platform.
Yeah.
And that's already hard enough. I'm just going to stick to one platform. And that is the sage advice over the last decade or two, is to pick one platform and to focus on that, because otherwise you spread yourself too thin. But the problem with that is that there are huge audiences on these other platforms. Look at what's been happening with X, formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah.
X has just shot up and they've put a huge emphasis on video. Now, if you're only on YouTube, great, and you're doing great there, fantastic. But why not also publish on other platforms like X or LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, where there are other audiences? And I don't know about you, but I use all sorts of different platforms for watching and consuming different content. And I think if you can be everywhere all the time at the same time without burning out, then why not? And that's exactly what Vubli helps you do. It helps you be everywhere all the time at the same time. So instead of just going to one platform, you just upload your video to Vubli, and then what Vubli does, and we talked about this earlier, is it takes your transcript of your video and use that as part of the context to help. Then Vubli will then automatically from that write your title, description, tags in a way that people will want to read and click on. So it uses the smarts from AI to do that, but then also it writes it in your own voice. And this is a big thing. So it doesn't look like someone just typed into ChatGPT, write me a title and write me a description and write me some tags. No, it looks at your transcript and uses that for training it to help write it in your own voice. So that's a really big deal. So it does it for YouTube. It does it for Instagram. It does it for TikTok. It does it for Facebook. It does it for LinkedIn. And we're just about to add X to the mix as well. So it does all in one go, like in a few seconds, depending on how long your video is, the longer it is, the longer it takes, obviously. Once it's all done, you check it all. You go, hey, this looks awesome. You just click one button, publish, and it publishes to all these places in one go. So it goes from Vubli to YouTube, to Instagram, to TikTok, to Facebook, to LinkedIn, and soon X as well, all in one go. And voila, it's all there. And
you schedule things like in advance?
Soon, yes. So we're working on the scheduler. We're almost done with that to allow you to then, schedule in advance. So that's coming very, very soon.
Amazing. Right. Awesome. And Vubli is live now for the public?
Absolutely, yeah. You can head on over there already, Vubli.ai, or if you might have we haven't talked about this, Darren, but if you'd like to use an affiliate link to tell people about that, we can set that up for you 100%.
Awesome. Yeah, perfect. And just to go over the marriage between Splasheo and Vubli, Splasheo is where you would take your source material and repurpose it into smaller bite sizes with captions and emojis and things like that. And then Vubli will then integrate with that and distribute it out to all those platforms in content that's relevant and in your voice. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So you can use Splasheo. If you're doing like a video podcast or Zoom calls like this, you can send it off to Splasheo. We've got real people doing the work there. I think that's still valuable, where people do the work. They can,
I agree.
Human beings, and they can identify that subtleties of what we chop it up and edit it, make it into nice portrait style videos. And then we get it ready to publish. And once it's done, you can just basically get it into Vubli and then send it off everywhere. Yeah.
Amazing. Brilliant. That's amazing. And just tell the audience a bit more about how they can access that. So just go to Vubli.ai and they can set up an account and up and running.
Absolutely. Yeah. Vubli.ai. You can go there, and we've got a free trial there at the moment. We are, right. Yeah. So we'll always have something free there. At least that's the intention right now at the time of this recording. So either as a free trial or some sort of a freemium version of it to give you just a taste, so you can just try it without entering in a credit card or anything like that. It's just name and email type of thing, password maybe, and then boom, right away you can try it and see how awesome it is. And so we wanted people just to experience that and get that aha moment. Like the first time we did it, or that I did it when it was fully developed, I was just like, oh my, this is so awesome. I just want to use this all the time.
It saved me a whole day.
It saves you a whole day. And it's actually, it motivates you to want to create more.
That's right.
And I think that's what a really cool thing is, because it removes that pain, that friction of the publishing process. So yeah, we created it to help you have more joy in life, and as a video creator at least. So, so it takes that pain away, helps you be more creative.
Video creation is probably the most consuming, the most time consuming of all the content mediums out there. Because there's sound built into that. There's the editing. There's so much work. And if we can streamline that and make it more efficient, then everybody can create more video. Fantastic. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Gideon, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I'm going to make sure that I put all the links in the show notes for Splasheo, for Vubli, how people could find you. But I always like to leave my guest with a last word. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave us with? Any tips, advice, comments, anything really?
Yeah, life is short, and I think it's important to find that thing that you love doing and that you're naturally good at, and to hone in on that, but also not to shy away from work that is challenging but meaningful. So if you can find something that's meaningful in your life and align that with your natural gifts and talents, then, and you can combine that with video, then you're gonna probably hit the jackpot.
Fantastic, man. I love it. I really enjoyed that. You've such a wealth of information and insight in the video space, and we need that more and more these days, particularly with the rise of AI and the new technology that's just rapidly changing. So really appreciate you coming on. I've thoroughly enjoyed that. I hope everybody else has as well. Everybody, we're going to put all the links in the show notes. So check them out. Check out Vubli. There's a free trial. And we'll see you all very, very soon for another episode of Playing with Perspective, the Suspended Animation Podcast. Thanks again, Gideon.
Cheers, Darren.
Bye for now, everyone. Thanks again for joining me for another episode of Playing with Perspective, the Suspended Animation Podcast. If you would like to join me as a guest on the show, I would be delighted to collaborate. Just reach out via www.suspendedanimation.com.au. Also, remember to click on the link in the show notes for loads of great podcasting resources, webinars, courses, and opportunities to help you on your podcast journey. Many of them free. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.